What is a breatharian? So a breatharian is a person who does not typically eat food, or say somebody who doesn't do it on a regular basis, kind of in the same way that other people do. This is it's an interesting subject, something that I'm quite interested in right now. And so let's get into it. So I'm just gonna go through my own story and journey with this kind of stuff, because that's the best way to explain it, and for it to be real, and so you can kind of see that it's not just this idea that I think is kind of cool or whatever. It's not that at all. So anyways, when I was about 20 years old, my body changed. It stopped accepting certain poisons, preservatives mainly, things like that in foods, just man-made synthetic poisons, not allergic to anything that nature has to offer. And so it took some time to figure out, eventually did through diet, just this and that, eventually cut out the right stuff. It's like, holy cow, this is food related. No thanks to the doctors, thanks for nothing. And then so I eventually went traveling, and at the end of my travels, I was in Southeast Asia. I was in Thailand. I flew into Bangkok, and I ended up sharing a room with a yogi. And so this guy, he was really nice, and he encouraged me to rethink eating onions and animal products. And when I went home, I thought about it for a minute, and then I looked into it, and I did. I looked at it, I was like, hey, yeah, all right. And I tried it. He just said, try it out, and I did, and I noticed a difference. And so because that's the kind of person that I am, when I learn about something, nobody had to convince me. It didn't take 100 documentaries. It didn't take a bunch of trial and errors. It was just like, da, da, da. It was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. End of story. So that's who I am. And so I was already, I was deep in the diet change process, and I was also just getting into this idea of spirituality, because of understanding that the world was a little more complex than I thought. And I think I was into a little bit of conspiracy theories at the time. But anyways, and just learning about all these different things, eventually the spiritual stuff started coming my way, and it was like that made a lot more sense, because the ideas, or the way that it was being depicted with the conspiracy stuff is like, it doesn't make sense. It's all about money and power. Like, yeah, right. That's like, it doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. Anyways, so moving on. Then the spiritual stuff starts coming in, and I was like a little bit of channeling stuff here and there, and then got into this. I had heard that you could look at the sun. So it's called sun gazing. You can stare directly at the sun, not when it's overhead, only when it's right on the horizon at certain times. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. But just to be told by a number of sources that it's actually okay and can be beneficial, but also can be detrimental. And so I decided to try it, the right place at the right time when it felt right. And it was a thing. You could just look at the sun when it was right on the horizon, as it was either rising or coming down, and there's a window of time there where it's like, meditative, and it was fascinating, because you could look at this thing which otherwise people tell you, oh, you're going to go blind. And I had children, my cousin's child made fun of me, and that to be made fun of by a child, it really humbled me, because it was just I don't know, I can't remember exactly, but it really, allowed me to overcome some things that was just like blocks or whatever. But anyway, so then learning about sun gazing and then doing it, but then stepping away from it, because it's like I felt like it would, I was like, I felt this energy, but it was too much. I wasn't ready for it. And I was just like, it's like I used to say it's kind of like a car with the engine revved up, tires spinning, brakes on, going nowhere, a smoke show, makes a big stink for everyone, goes nowhere. It just creates a ruckus. And I was doing that in my own life. So I stepped away from the sun gazing. I was like, well, this is an interesting technique. I don't understand everything about it. And I may do it from time to time. So certainly if I'm down in like Mexico or whatever and the beach, I'm gonna look at it, because it's beautiful, and I don't, my sight's great. And so that's the thing. And so and then there was this movie called Eat the Sun, and it talked about how people would do this. They would do this sun gazing, and then they would be able to not need to eat and not need to sleep. So it's like this little bit, and it's like, it's not what I was after, but it's a funny thing because how those things, how tied we are to those things, to the food. It's like, need to eat, need to sleep. So imagine if you could just lessen your requirement for those things, you'd have more time. And then not need, you spend money on the food and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, okay, more freedom. Sounds pretty awesome. And then so that was the thing, just starting to wrap my mind around this thing about lightening up, letting go of attachments to certain things, or just like the need to rely on certain things just to feel great. And then even beyond that, just to feel awesome without certain things. And then so there was this book that came my way. It's Survival in the 21st Century, Planetary Healer's Manual by Viktoras Kulvinskas. And then in here, there is this bit. So a friend recommended me this book. She had it and she was like, oh, this is the best. And it's neat. It is super neat. And there's a bit on breatharianism, sunshine for lunch, and it goes into it. It's interesting for sure. Really interesting book. And so that was just like another piece of the puzzle, but it's still kind of just, for me, it was intellectual and out there. But then, and like I had heard about there's a woman named Jasmine who I think she started like kind of disseminating breatharian kind of understanding in the early 90s. There's controversy about her because, I don't know, some people have died because they stopped eating or followed her teachings, or maybe didn't follow her teachings. I don't know what they are because I never looked into them. But certainly there's a thing, if you type in breatharianism into a Google search, you will most likely find something about her. And as well as other like articles about people who have looked into this stuff, and they're by like big publications, really big ones, and they're, I've read through them, and I honestly don't appreciate them because I feel that they're done in a sort of like a mocking tone. It's hard to describe because it's subtle, but it's just like, at the end of the day, you gotta eat, just like as a matter of a fact, kind of like it's just like, okay, right? I mean, good for you. Anyways, so then moving beyond that kind of stuff, I was like transitioning to lighter diet and stuff like that, and then like fruit, and then that started becoming a thing, being aware of this idea of fruitarian kind of stuff. And so then I found this dude, so there was this video, it's called The Future Humans Are Here. Genesis, Jericho, Sunfire in Italy, 2012, Inedia interview. So Inedia is Latin for fasting or breatharianism. So there's a couple terms that people throw around regarding breatharianism. That's certainly one of them. And so Jericho, or Genesis Sunfire, aka Richard Blackman, was a professional rugby player for Oldham Rugby League in the UK. So he's like, a sort of famous dude, it's like, this dude exists. It's not just some random person you never heard of. This guy exists. If you're into sports, or rugby or whatever. And so just the way that he talked and composed himself resonated with me, because he's like, I'm not a breatharian. He's like, I don't care about that kind of stuff, or a fruitarian or any of that. It's just like, those are just labels that people use to put you into a box. It's just like, go away. But he talks about his experience with it all, and it's very, to me, there's no ego there, or very little. And then and a lot of heart and a lot of resolve, I suppose. And so it very much resonated with me. I will add a link in the description to that one. So that was a big thing, him, Genesis, Jericho. And then another one that came up was this couple, Akahi and Camilla, who they're a breatharian couple from Ecuador. They've had a child while being breatharians, and this blows a lot of people's minds, because it's like, oh, how can you? Okay, right? But a lot of stuff, science also tells us that matter is comprised of 99% empty space, and then here we are having this physical experience and whatnot. But moving beyond that, right? I just want to say E equals MC squared because it just comes to mind, but I don't even know what I'm talking about here. Anyway, so Akahi claims to have channeled an 8-day breatharian process, and this is said to be a successor to the 21-day process, which was a thing from before, which was said to be channeled in 1993 by a group of friends in Australia. And so I'm just going to read this little bit here. So the 8-day process is said to give clarity to the mind on how the body creates light with every breath, educates the body on the use of subtle energies, and educates the emotions to be in a state of allowance, intelligence, love, and recognition of our divinity. This process allows us to live without the idea of limitation, which makes life effortless. And when we learn to truly understand the gift of our freedom, then we are truly free to explore what life has to offer. Paraphrasing something from a video of his. So I found this fascinating, and I wrote a book about spirituality. It's, of course, had to be in there. And I was not prepared to have anything in my book that I didn't have first-hand personal experience with. So I decided to undergo this 8-day process, and I did it. And it involved a dry fast for the first few days, and it was pretty tough, because it's but the idea is your body uses all the water, and then it wants more. And then it's in a state where it's searching for something that it's very used to getting all the time, and then it wants more. And then it's in that state of receptivity where it's somebody called me the other day very upset, and it's in that place when you're super, when you need something really bad, where you're very receptive, where you can actually, because if you got it all figured out, it's just oh, hey, you should eat more fruit. He's like, no, I'm fine, just eat. No, it's okay, right? But when you're searching for answers, it's different. So there's something about that. And then you eventually, on the third or fourth day, you start taking diluted fruit juices to through affirmations, essentially reprogramming your cells to function on another level, or to derive energy from source, whatever the case, right? Reprogramming computer. And so that was that. But, you know, it was like with the sun gazing and like with the breatharian, I couldn't stay with it for very long because I just wasn't ready. I wasn't there yet. I had too many things to go through with diet and health and my own mind and understanding with things. So I had cupboards full of food and stuff. It's like, holy cow, I don't know. It's like too much too fast, you know, the pot breaks. And so it's just like, okay, this will always be here. It's not going away. So just step back from it. You know, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen naturally. It's going to happen organically, and it's going to happen effortlessly. And there's not going to be any insistence, and there's not going to be any like, you know, it's going to be coming from the right place. I'm going to be moving towards it with love, not away from something else with fear. Gigantic difference between the two, of course. And so I went back to food but like, you know, all this stuff because my health was consistently failing with me. And it was a real challenging time because it was just like I put so much effort into better diet and healthy practices. And it's just like still health failing, knees failing, joints, soreness, tiredness, brain not working properly. It was brutal. I tried so many things. Eventually got into, I guess it was at that point I got into fruit because I had transitioned to essentially raw vegan, and then it was like, okay, and I'm sitting there eating this piece of broccoli and celery at lunch. I was working at this greenhouse, and then like I was like, hold on a second, what does my body run off of? You know, and it's not broccoli or protein, right? I mean, carbohydrates. So that is a level of existence, you know, where carbohydrates are important for the body. It is a part of, and we have this relationship with trees where they produce the fruit, and then we eat the fruit, and then we disperse the seeds, and they give off the oxygen, and then we give out the carbon dioxide. And you know, there is a serious synergy happening there. And so yeah, I got onto fruit, and just instantly I had my vigor back, my vitality, my virility. I got into running because I all of a sudden had like my energy back, and it was fantastic. And then I went through some cleansing. I did like 30-day, or I had done Gerson cleansing before with like coffee enemas and diet changes and whatnot, and you know, experienced not the results that I was looking for. And then I did a 30-day juice fast, just like this Dr. Schultz herb doctor thing, recommended by a channel, Bashar. He doesn't talk about health anymore, but back in the day, he would say, cleanse. You just have to cleanse your body of all the garbage, and it takes certain herbs and like tinctures and teas and things to clean the junk out, to carry stuff out, to get the mercury out of your gut if you've been eating stuff. So super important, that one. Yeah, and I did it, and I certainly lost some weight doing it. Not impressed with that, but kind of gained it back, but still had some health issues. Doing pretty good, but you know, health issues. And then so fast forward 5 or 6 years, transitioned from basically to just eating probably like 70% fruit. And then there was this thing, the Dr. Sebi. So it's a non-hybrid foods. So, the ones that have been around for a very long time, nothing that's been like heavily hybridized. And I do think that there's something to that, but then there's also something, I've heard both sides of the coin, and it's not so cut and dry. Like, there's just not allowed to eat anything that's been hybridized. I don't agree, because like say like the Mayans, they created corn they were a next level species. I don't even, as far as I know, what I've heard, that they're not even from here. They came here on ships and then left on ships, and some stayed just to watch the thing play out, and whatnot, to play a part in the unfoldment of this story. But like, they are a next level, like, extraterrestrial species, and not the only one on this planet. But that's not what we're talking about right now. And I'm not saying that's right. It's just what I've been told anyways. And then so all this kind of stuff, and then I learned about Dr. Nun Amun Ra. So there was a video. It's like vegan strongman eats 1 meal a day, and so this guy is all about the about intermittent fasting, and fascinating. I will put a link to this one in the description as well, because those two videos. But this one, it's when you hear the way that this guy speaks, and you look into him and whatnot, I mean, it's pretty legit. I have not followed his regiment to a T, but I have tried a variety of forms, and I've come to learn some of how what he says is, very on point. And great guy. Look forward to purchasing his work one day. It's just, it's a little pricey right now. And so that was great, but intermittent fasting, I decided to step away from it, because it's like, hold on a second, this is a technique and it's great for all kinds of stuff. And I think it's something for me, it's something to go to and come back to, but I also believe in just listening to my body, and when my stomach growls, and like because I've been quite thin I want to be a little bit heftier and have the energy that I need to practice my calisthenics and to heal from running and yoga and all that kind of stuff. So super important. And I do great eating, just not eating too much and listening to the body. I mean, and then so stepped away from that, and then the whole thing with celiac, and then healing from that to do with healing my mind. And then there was this guy, Lauren Lockman, who I watched a ton of his videos, and he's all about, so it's just like fruit and salad, and I agree with like basically damn near everything that he says, and his reasoning for a lot of it. But in practice, I did what the diet of just fruit and salad, and like no oils, no salt, no nothing, and it didn't work for me. I lost 5 pounds, which was not awesome, because I don't have a lot of pounds. Maybe it was mucus lining, I don't know, but it felt good to do it. It was like a cleanse. It was almost like a rebirth, and to me, that was where it stopped. And then I didn't have I wasn't feeling good. And then I started eating beans again, which is cooked food, and leukocytosis. But you know what? I feel great when I eat beans once in a while. And I don't mind a little bit of hemp oil on there. And but it was good because of his teachings. I was able to step away from certain things that didn't make sense, like the vinegars and that stuff like that, and the fermented foods for sure. Noticed a dramatic change in my health when I stopped. I used to have a kombucha business, and I stopped. Go away, kombucha. So now, once in a blue moon, but that's it. It is not something that, I don't know, I'll probably make another video about that. And then also sauerkraut too. I will talk about fermented foods in another video. It's too much right now. But so anyways, didn't work for me. So I started eating things, but I embraced salads more, which was something that I really didn't eat a whole lot of. And that's great. I mean, I like it. It helped me. So I'm grateful for what I got from his teachings. And then started eating more, put the weight back on, 5 pounds over time, just eating healthy and doing my version of all of these things. And then I was like a year, or am, so we're talking nowish, is like I'm like a year into my yoga training, but meditation. This is not hatha yoga. And so I just about finally started doing the exercises correctly. So I experienced a massive decrease in my hunger for food and sleep. And that was the thing that kind of got me wondering about what it was, and so I learned that it's basically like if you most people eat food and sleep to recharge their batteries, but it's not the only way. And so through the yoga practices, there's things that you do to draw energy into the body and store it there for your use. It's basically that you can either receive the energy that you get like passively through sleep or actively through meditation. And so apparently this is a very key component as far as walking a breatharian journey. You have to have a significant meditation practice in place in order to be able to do this, to walk this path. And so it takes a certain kind of a person. It's not like being a breatharian is just something that is for anybody that they can just do because it sounds cool, or yeah, it is. You kind of have to be there in your life. You have to have had the right motivations and to then be ready to start learning about this. And so very important that you're doing it for the right reasons. And I think that's where some people run into problems with it. Trying to work with an advanced technique prematurely. But then there's this thing, it's like is when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and then came this guy, breatharian Elatom Elamin, and he's speaking about energy in a way that I have not heard before. And it is great to help put together certain pieces of the puzzle, and he gives exercises and things and just ways, he explains it like they say if you can't explain it to a child, you probably don't understand it at all. And I wouldn't recommend any of these people, because you have to find your way with it, and some of the language and the energy that they give off can throw you off. But anyways, but I really appreciate it is somebody I'm essentially binge watching his videos right now. And then that's the thing, you go on, you type in breatharian, there's, see people say it's a hoax, but then there's like breatharianworld.com, there's like 36 practitioners on there. And so it's not like it's just isolated incidents. And so at the end of the day, the question is it food or is it prana? I think it's both. Just to be free to choose, that you're not tied to either breatharianism or to food. If you need to eat, or if you want to eat, or if it makes sense, then do it. If you're hot and you want to drink some water, that's okay. If you're perspiring, after a run, and to not worry about it. But if you can't find pure, clean water, wait. Don't put something substandard into your body. And if you can't find fruit, you don't have to just eat some garbage because that's all that's around. You're good, and it's nice to have the option. So yeah, that is what it's about for me. It's not about being super strict with diet. It's not about following some idea or regime or whatever. I mean, just understanding that there is an evolution to diet. There's an evolution to everything, and it's just about, for me right now, it's about just being free to choose, to be able to step away from food for a little bit of time and not be afraid that I'm gonna ruin myself. I love the idea of freedom and to not be reliant on other things. So I hope this helps, Yeah.